Welcome back. Time for our GMC Sierra Tweet of the Night. Comes from Codified Baseball. Paul Skenes has started 10 games for the Pittsburgh Pirates and has never left a game with his team trailing. Is that good? Suzie, sounds pretty good to me, but let's take that a step further. 10 career starts now for Paul Skenes. I have now seen maybe 3 or 4 times in the last 48 hours, Suzie, national media, not just people in Pittsburgh, not even people in Pittsburgh, national media, Suzie, making a case for Paul Skenes starting for the National League in the All-Star game. That's what they're talking about now after 10 starts from this guy. That's what they've seen.
Yeah, I mean, you look at his start again tonight and just how good is he really? It's every single game he goes out there. It's 7+ strikeouts in 9 of his 10 first starts in Major League Baseball. Tonight he fires 107 pitches. You know, a multitude of them were over 100 miles per hour. We're seeing Nolan Ryan type of numbers. In just his first 10 starts alone, he struck out 78 batters. He's only walked 12. That's insane. Yep. That's just insane to watch. And then I think the most fun that I'm having with Paul Skenes is somebody, I think it was Andrew Filipponi, he tweeted out a video of the line going into PNC Park tonight. And yes, it's a Friday night in Pittsburgh. It's the 4th of July weekend. But we know why so many people were lined up outside that ballpark tonight. And it was to watch Paul Skenes take the bump and absolutely dial it in. And that's just, you're seeing what one player can do for an entire city, and that's really cool. So we just a couple other pieces have to be put into place for Paul Skenes and everybody to really take this season by storm. But the Paul Skenes effect, I think it's really working here whenever we see what he put on tonight.
If anybody who's watching your show has watched anything I've talked about baseball over the last maybe half decade, I've been pushing the same theory as to how you can win a winning baseball, how you can build a winning baseball team in this current landscape. And the theory is called kids in pitching. Developing through your minor leagues and getting pitching by any means necessary. Just having good pitching and good developed position players. The pitching is here. It is now safe to say it out loud without any fear of retribution. The pitching has arrived. Now you need everything else to take shape, like you mentioned. You need some of those developed players. You need some of those position players. You need consistent guys to come in that can step up and contribute on a regular basis. 412-575-2600 is the number. You got those tweets. Keep them coming at Josh Taylor HD. You got Jim and Peters. You're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, Josh, I'm 72 years old. I started watching baseball in 1960. He's the best pitcher I've ever seen, and I'll tell you why. 4 pitches. He throws 4-seamer, 2-seamer, inside out. He works the plate up and down, roundabout. Military background. Boom. He's like a surgeon. He's so precise, but hitting is contagious. And they were going on the fastball. They were cracking the fastball. That's it.
Good points brought in by Jim. Best pitcher he's ever seen, Suzie. I will say this. Best Pirates pitcher I've seen in my lifetime. I don't think there's anything crazy behind that, but he's got a great point, Suzie. You saw this team jumping on. You saw them jumping on early counts, by the way. They weren't waiting till they took a couple pitchers. They were jumping early. Michael A. Taylor had 4 hits. He only saw 5 pitches. They were extremely aggressive tonight, and it paid off for him really well.
And that was something that manager Derek Shelton said at the beginning of the season, that he just wanted his team to be a little bit sharper whenever it came to the strike zone, really take the pitches that were in that strike zone that they wanted to go for. And tonight was one of those nights where it really paid off. Again, 16 hits. Now, these are numbers that we saw at the beginning of the season. When you also have to think back to the beginning of the season after spring training, everybody was all hyped up on the Pirates because they led spring training whenever it came to those home run numbers. They led spring training whenever it came to power. So is this kind of the turn of the tides? Are we going to start seeing this type of power and this type of production from the Pirates?
It's something you would love to see over the course of time. And I know we're halfway through the season, so some might argue too little, too late, and they wouldn't be wrong. But if you can see that in the second half of the season, maybe that's the difference maker. Maybe that's the thing. Instead of being multiple games out, maybe that's what shaves that lead in half. It makes it a little bit more palatable as we get into August, maybe going into September. We got Rudy in California. Rudy, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, Mr. Josh Taylor, this is Rudy Reyes. It's been a while. I hadn't been on the show in quite some time, but I had a chance to listen to it on my way home on Sirius XM. And since 47, it's an amazing feat to say the very least. Let's put that into context. the other part of that is that when you look at Skenes, the guy's a phenom. There's no question. Generational talent, that remains to be seen. I think the jury's still out on that. But as with any team, you know this, Josh, probably better than anybody I've spoken to, that it takes depth in the rotation, depth in pitching rotation, calling guys up from AAA, being able to be available. It's all about the next man up theory, and that applies to basically all sports, really, except for individuals. But, when you look at this Pirates team, they just have a few pieces, and to your point, have a few pieces left of this puzzle. A lot of teams make post all-season runs. It's been done historically. I think the Pirates are certainly on that path as long as, A, they can stay healthy, B, they have depth in rotation, calling guys up, sending guys back. I've seen this story way too many times, and then all of a sudden here comes the obligatory trade before the trade deadline, and you get rid of some of your best players. I don't think the Pirates are there at that point where they need to do anything but addition by subtraction in some positions, outfield maybe, but when it comes to hitting, when it comes to pitching, they're really all in right now.
Rudy, good to talk to you, brother. It's been a long time. Rudy, by the way, is in the state of California. He's not down in the Mon Valley in California. He's out in California, if you will. But it's always good to talk to Rudy. He made a lot of points, Suzie. He dropped a lot of different points there. And the one I'll circle back to that he mentioned, he talked about the depth in the rotation, but he also talked about that depth in the lineup. And we kind of circled around that just from the hitting standpoint of how you got to get more guys that are producing to the rate where, there were certain points in this season we were talking about replacement level guys being the better guys in the team. We were talking about Edward Olivares and Connor Joe being the more consistent performers and producers on this team. And to be honest, nothing against those two men, but you're not going to be able to be a team that goes deep if those are the guys that are producing for you. You need more out of Brian Reynolds, what he's doing right now. You'd love to see Rowdy Tellez, what he's doing. Uncle Junior on Twitter talked about that redemption game. His batting average is up to 240. Remember about 6 to 7 weeks ago when it was in the 170s? This is a guy who's roared back, made some changes. He said he made some adjustments that he hasn't done since he was in high school. You see the difference being made with some of the guys in this lineup and how they're turning things around.
Yeah, and I think the biggest question whenever Rudy mentioned, what moves do the Pirates make before the trade deadline? However, a lot of, skepticism is maybe Bob Nutting doesn't make any moves really. Maybe he tries to wait out the Rowdy Tellez and the Jack Zawinski stories. And whenever you see a night like tonight, do you blame him for that? However, again, and this is going to be the word of this show, it's going to be consistency. Rowdy Tellez now has that average up in the 240s. That's great. He had a two-homer game here tonight, but you need to see that on a more consistent basis to be able to have that argument and not look into trading him before the trade deadline in order to not try and put somebody at first base that's going to be able to add just a little more depth, a little more power, a little more consistency to this lineup.
We got more to talk about with this team because we got some tweets coming in. They're firing, coming in hot. So we will take another break. We'll read some more tweets, talking a little bit more some Bucko baseball when we come back before we wrap up. Stick around. Suzie, cool. Got a couple more tweets to talk about here, and they're related to Paul Skenes. Uncle Junior says Skenes getting stronger during the game. He says he has the it factor like nobody he's ever seen. Says command wasn't sharp, but he figured it out, and he kept getting better. He pitched like a 10-year vet with 22-year-old stuff. Maniac Malloy says Paul Skenes has to start the All-Star game. Says he wants to see him face Gunnar Henderson, Juan Soto, and Aaron Judge. Give the people what they want, Suzie. Do you want what the people want? You think Paul Skenes should start?
I think that would be really cool. Yes, I think that would be. I think, and Jeff Passan said it best. He said, if you want people to get invested into this game, invested into this event, then you're going to have the best matchup in baseball that night, which would be Paul Skenes against this American League lineup.
I keep thinking back to this, and I heard someone else talk about this too. I think I mentioned this with Chris Muller a couple days ago. The thing I think about, I want to say it was either 1998 or 1999. Pedro Martinez, the All-Star game is in Boston. Pedro starts on the mound, and he just mows guys down to start that game. And he's mowing down Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire. He's taking down the best hitters in the game, and he's striking them all out. To not see offense in that first bit of that game, it didn't matter because one of the best pitchers in the game was putting on a show against the best hitters in the game. That's something I want to see. Good on good, like they like to say in football. Give me good on good. Give me best on best. and see how it sorts out on the biggest stage.
Yeah, and that's the entire idea behind the All-Star Game, the Home Run Derby, right? That's arguably some of the biggest nights in baseball other than the World Series. So when you think of the matchup of Paul Skenes against people like Juan Soto, Gunnar Henderson, Aaron Judge, that's going to be what brings even more attention to this game than maybe ever before, honestly, because if you think about it, I mean, you're seeing tweet after tweet after tweet about Paul Skenes. I can't remember the last time that I saw Major League Baseball willingly start an Instagram post with the Pittsburgh Pirates as the front-running picture, and they just did that the other day to highlight the month of June, and it was Paul Skenes with an entire PNC Park lit up with fans behind him. So this guy is taking over Major League Baseball. Give the people what they want.
That's a good case you just made. I like to hear it, and I will say, I'll add this to it too. When you and Chris Muller, I thought, laid this out beautifully a couple nights ago. The one thing that baseball has not been good at doing over the past, I don't know how many years, they haven't been as great at marketing stars, especially a game that has the likes of a Juan Soto or a Mike Trout or a Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
Then you get a phenom that walks in like Paul Skenes. I think back to when Hideo Nomo first came over from Japan, 1995, 96-ish, and how big of a phenom he was then. That's what they need to take and bottle that up. Fernando Mania. I know, I'm showing my age. I was an infant when that happened. But it's one of those things that MLB got their arms around, and they did it the right way, and they struck while the iron was hot, and they made the most of it. And I'd like to see them do the same thing with Paul Skenes. Suzie, always a great time. Always good talking ball with you. She'll be back tomorrow night, so she's not going too far away. For Suzie Cool, for our producer Jeremiah Miller and our team here at KDKA, I'm Josh Taylor saying thanks for watching, thanks for your calls, thanks for your tweets. It's you guys that make this show great, and we're right back here tomorrow night on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. See you then.